Story number 1. Has anyone encountered a gnome or leprechaun-type being? So let me share this fascinating story with you. I happen to have this friend of mine who used to be employed in the field of security, and it was during one of his night shifts when something rather intriguing occurred. Picture this. He was on his regular patrol, dutying around the building that had parking spaces beneath it, but mind you, it wasn't an underground facility. Imagine a structure elevated on stilts with an open parking area underneath it. Are you following along? As he was diligently making his rounds, something caught his attention. To his surprise, there was no cars parked except for his trusty patrol vehicle. However, he thought he spotted a figure lurking about. Intrigued and perhaps slightly apprehensive, he swiftly directed his flashlight toward the source of his curiosity, revealing a peculiar sight. It was someone or something dressed entirely in vivid green, peeking from behind one of the sturdy pillars. Yes, it was human in appearance, roughly resembling the size of a typical 12-year-old child. In that brief moment, my friend couldn't help but sense an air of mischievousness emanating from this mysterious being. It seemed as though it was playing an elaborate game of hide-and-seek, expertly concealed behind the pillar. Yet, as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished before my friend's astonished gaze. Now here's the perplexing part. There was truly nowhere else for this enigmatic figure to conceal itself, and it certainly shouldn't have been able to depart from the open area without being detected or producing any sound. Now picture the time. My friend experienced this bewildering incident in the dark hours of the night between 2 and 3 a.m. Since then, he has never discarded the notion that perhaps it was a mischievous child, or an individual attempting to engage him in a peculiar prank. Nevertheless, despite contemplating these possibilities, he remains utterly perplexed about the manner in which this peculiar entity vanished into thin air. It truly boggles the mind. Therefore, my curiosity is piqued, and I would be absolutely thrilled to hear if any of you delightful individuals have had the pleasure of encountering a similar inexplicable occurrence. Please do share your experiences if you have any to contribute to this captivating discussion. Story number 2. Strange findings with pictures. As I step out of my house, a sense of anticipation fills the air. The familiar routine of taking my beloved dog for a walk in the nearby park is about to commence. This park, nestled inconspicuously behind a colossal sporting goods store, remains relatively unknown to most people. Its obscure location has rendered it virtually empty, making it the perfect haven for me and my energetic canine companion. With a leash in hand and my dog eagerly wagging her tail, we embark on an expedition toward the park. As we approach, the tranquil pond at the park's heart comes into view, casting a serene ambiance over the surroundings. It's a sight that never fails to captivate me. The gentle ripples on the water's surface create a symphony of tranquility that resonates deep within me. Releasing my dog from her leash, she darts away with unbridled enthusiasm. I watch with delight as she frolics and bounds through the grassy expanse, her joyful barks echoing through the stillness. Meanwhile, I take the opportunity to meander leisurely around the circumference of the pond, relishing the harmonious blend of nature's melodies and my dog's exuberant playfulness. On this particular day, however, a twist of fate leads me to a revelation that would forever alter my perception of this serene oasis. As we make our way to the far side of the pond, my eyes catch a glimpse of my furry companion racing down a footpath concealed within the dense trees and bushes. Intrigued by this unfamiliar sight, I called out her name, hoping to beckon her back. To my surprise, she momentarily emerges from the foliage only to swiftly retreat back into its mysterious depths. Curiosity getting the better of me, I decide to follow her. Venturing down the footpath, the canopy of trees above cast a dappled shade upon the forest floor. The rustling of leaves underfoot creates a soothing cadence, heightening the sense of adventure that now courses through my veins. As I push deeper into the heart of the grove, the landscape begins to unfold before me, revealing a hidden sanctuary crafted by imaginative hands. It appears as though a group of children had assembled a whimsical fort amidst nature's embrace. A board serving as a makeshift bench rests upon a stump, while reeds from the adjacent pond have been artfully woven through the bushes and form a rudimentary wall. It's a charming discovery, enchanting in its simplicity. However, the allure of this newfound enchantment quickly dissipates when my gaze falls upon a macabre spectacle suspended from the tree at the center of the clearing. Bones, small and delicate, dangle ominously, swaying gently in the breeze. Among them, the skull of a diminutive canine stares back at me, its empty eye socket serving as a chilling testament to some unknown fate. A shiver courses down my spine as a foreboding realization takes hold. To compound the unease, my canine companion exhibits an unusual fascination with the concealed trash bag nestled amidst the undergrowth. Cautiously, I approach to investigate its contents, my heart pounding with apprehension. Peering inside, my eyes widen at the unexpected sight that greets me. The bag harbors several rolls of what appears to be surgical tubing. A disconcerting sense of foreboding washes over me, as though the veil of innocence surrounding this hidden sanctuary had been abruptly lifted. In that moment, an overwhelming instinct prompts me to secure my dog back on her leash. Fear gnaws at the edges of my consciousness, urging me to retreat from this eerie realm that now feels tainted by an unknown darkness. With haste, I capture photographic evidence of the disconcerting discoveries before hastily making my escape. The sense of urgency propels me out of the clandestine grove and back onto the familiar path leading out of the park. Days pass, and the haunting memory of that unsettling encounter lingers within me. Determined to unravel the mystery, I muster the courage to return to the park, hoping to find some answers. As I approach the entrance, a mix of trepidation and curiosity tugs at my heartstrings. What will I discover this time? Will the remnants of that eerie sanctuary still linger, or will the park have undergone a transformation to erase any trace of its existence? As I step foot into the park, my eyes widen in astonishment. The once lush trees that adorn the footpath have been uprooted and removed, leaving behind a barren landscape. The absence of the grove feels like a void, as if nature itself has attempted to erase the remnants of its dark secret. The City Park Service must have deemed it necessary to intervene, perhaps oblivious to the sinister undercurrents that had taken root. Undeterred, I ventured deeper into the park, my gaze darting across the surroundings, searching for any remnants of the secret grove. However, it became evident that nature's intervention had been thorough, leaving no trace of the fort or the chilling bones that had sent shivers down my spine. The park now appears unblemished, its tranquility restored, deceiving any casual observer into believing that nothing untoward had ever transpired within its borders. Yet the unease that had settled within me refuses to dissipate. I am not alone in my misgivings. Whispers of sinister occurrences and inexplicable phenomena begin to circulate through the grapevine of town. It seems that the appearance of satanic graffiti, once confined to the outskirts of our community, has crept closer, manifesting in alarming proximity to the park. The newfound darkness casts an ominous shadow over the town, leaving its residents unsettled and wary. Unable to dismiss the unsettling connection between the graffiti and the disturbing discoveries within the grove, my apprehension deepens. The inexplicable events and the emergence of these malevolent symbols instill a sense of caution within me, urging me to exercise vigilance and avoid the once beloved park. Now, whenever I pass the entrance to that secluded sanctuary, an inexplicable chill runs down my spine. The park, once a cherished escape, now holds an air of foreboding, its innocence forever tainted. The hidden grove, with its twisted remnants and its disturbing secrets, serves as a haunting reminder of the darker forces that lurk beneath the surface of our seemingly idyllic surroundings. In the face of this newfound unease, I find solace in alternative routes and different locales for my dog's daily exercise. The small park, once a sanctuary of joy and serenity, had been forever transformed in my mind. The echoes of that fateful day continue to reverberate within me, a reminder that not everything is as it seems, and that line between innocence and malevolence can be disturbingly thin. As time passes, the town grapples with the growing presence of satanic imagery, each sighting amplifying the unease that permeates our lives. The once peaceful streets now carry an air of caution, and conversations are tinged with a collective anxiety. The mysterious grove and its hidden horrors have become a cautionary tale, a symbol of the darkness that encroaches upon our community. Though the park and its secrets remain shrouded in ambiguity, I'm left with an indelible impression of the inexplicable and the sinister. The experience has forever changed my perceptions of the world around me, reminding me that within the facade of tranquility lies the potential for darkness. It serves as a somber reminder that we must remain vigilant and attentive to the signs that may hint at the presence of malevolent forces lurking in the shadows. In an effort to bring awareness to the unsettling discoveries I made, I reach out to local authorities sharing the photographs I had captured during my hasty retreat from the hidden grove. They express concern and assure me that they will investigate the matter thoroughly. Together we hope to shed light on the enigmatic occurrence that plagued our town, to expose the truth behind the satanic graffiti and the disturbing remnants found within the secret grove. Meanwhile, the community rallies together, forming neighborhood watch groups and organizing informational sessions on personal safety. The once dormant sense of unity is rekindled as we strive to protect our loved ones and preserve the harmony that had once defined our town. We become more vigilant, reporting any suspicious activities or signs of dark symbolism to the authorities. As the investigation progresses, rumors circulate, fueling our collective anxiety. Speculations of cults and hidden rituals run rampant, perpetuating a sense of paranoia among the townsfolk. The eerie silence that now envelops the park serves as a constant reminder of the enigma that remains unsolved, leaving us on edge. While the true nature of the hidden grove may forever elude us, its impact on our lives is undeniable. It has reshaped our perception of safety, reminding us that evil can hide in plain sight. Our once blissful ignorance has been shattered, replaced by a cautious awareness of the hidden depths that may exist within our seemingly ordinary surroundings. In the midst of this uncertainty, I find solace in the unwavering loyalty and companionship of my dog. She, too, has been affected by the events that unfolded in the park. Her once carefree demeanor now carries a twinge of wariness, a reminder that animals possess an instinctual awareness of danger that we sometimes overlook. Together we explore new paths, seeking solace in every different corner of our town. The once beloved park, now tinged with the air of mystery and foreboding, fades into the background of our lives. Its significance wanes as we adapt to the evolving circumstances, knowing that our safety and peace of mind lie remaining vigilant and connected to our community. As time passes, the memories of that eerie encounter in the hidden grove begin to recede, gradually replaced by new experiences and new challenges. Our town continues to grapple with the remnants of darkness, yet we persevere, determined to restore a sense of security and reclaim the tranquility that was once synonymous with our community. The park with its pond and overgrown footpaths become a distant memory relegated to the annals of our personal histories. We forge ahead, acknowledging the fragility of innocence and the need to confront the shadows that threaten to engulf us. As we navigate the complexities of life, we carry the lessons learned from the chilling journey in the park, forever vigilant, forever aware of the potential darkness that lurks just beyond the surface of our everyday lives. Story number 3, Jail Ghosts. Number 2, Face in the Window. I've got a captivating tale to share with you all, my fellow listeners. You see, I happen to work at this county jail, a place filled with intriguing stories and peculiar occurrences. Now let me take you back to one particular night, where the events I experienced unfolded in a rather mysterious and unsettling manner. It was around the unholy hours of the night, somewhere between 3:30 and 4 a.m. At that precise moment, I received a call beckoning me to hurry to a specific cell block. The purpose of my presence there was to retrieve a fellow officer for a short while, as he had to attend a phone call or attend some other pressing matter in the office. Obligingly, I made my way to the designated cell block, ready to assume my temporary responsibilities. Upon arriving at the cell block, my fellow officer thanked me and assured me that he would return before the time came for the mandatory checks to be conducted. With that, he left, leaving me to carry out my duties alone. Now here's where the atmosphere took an eerie and perplexing aura. You see, all the cells in this unit were arranged in such a way that they faced the central desk, allowing the incarcerated individuals within to gaze out through small windows. As I took my seat at the desk, awaiting the return of my comrade, I idly twiddled my thumbs to pass the time, but then out of the blue, I heard a distinct tapping sound emanating from one of the cells. It immediately grabbed my attention, compelling me to scan the surroundings in an attempt to ascertain the source of this peculiar noise. To my surprise, the tapping persisted, and amidst the rhythmic beats, a voice emerged, uttering the phrase, 17 House. Curiosity piqued, I directed my gaze toward cell 17, which resided in the corner of the block, and there, standing within the narrow window, was an inmate, relentlessly tapping on his wrist, as if anxiously inquiring about the current time. Without hesitation, I responded by raising my hand, showcasing the number of fingers corresponding to the hour. The inmate nodded appreciatively before retreating into the shadows, disappearing from view. A few more minutes lapsed, and yet the absent officer had not returned. Consulting his log, I realized that he was long overdue for conducting a routine check. Concerned for the safety and well-being of the incarcerated individuals, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Rising from my seat, I embarked on a thorough inspection of the cell block, diligently peering through the small windows of each cell door. My intent was to ensure that all the inmates were secure and that nothing seemed amiss. As I made my way to cell number 17, the very same cell from which the inmate had sought the time, I aimed my flashlight into the dimly lit enclosure. What I discovered within left me utterly dumbfounded and perturbed. The cell was utterly vacant, devoid of any signs of habitation. No inmate stood there. No bedding or personal effects adorned the space. It was an eerie void. Perplexed, I double-checked the number, confirming that it was indeed cell 17, as I had initially believed. Satisfied with my inspection, I completed the remaining checks and returned to the central desk, laden with a sense of unease. Seated once again, my mind filled with questions and curiosity, I decided to consult the cell log, a record that documented the allocation of inmates in each cell, and what I discovered within its pages sent a chill down my spine. According to the log, cell 17 had been unoccupied for approximately 2 weeks, out of service due to a malfunctioning toilet. Yet there I was, standing at the desk, my thoughts consumed by the inexplicable events that had unfolded before me. The realization that the inmate had seemingly appeared in a cell that had been unoccupied for weeks sent shivers down my spine. It was as if I had witnessed a ghostly apparition, defying all rational explanation. Unable to contain my growing unease, I knew I had to share my bewildering encounter with the returning officer. As soon as he arrived, I recounted every detail, hoping that he might provide some insight or offer a logical explanation for what I had experienced. To my surprise, he too was taken aback by the peculiar nature of the situation. With a furrowed brow, the officer informed me that cell 17 had been deemed unfit for habitation due to the broken toilet. As a result, it had remained unoccupied for the past couple of weeks. The mere presence of an inmate in that cell seemed implausible, if not impossible. We both found ourselves grappling with this enigma, struggling to comprehend how this inexplicable occurrence had transpired. Determined to seek further evidence and perhaps shed some light on mysterious events, I decided to consult the surveillance system. The jail had a network of cameras strategically positioned throughout the facility, including one that overlooked the area encompassing cell 17. Making my way to the sergeant's office, I requested his assistance in retrieving the footage related to the incident. The sergeant, intrigued by my unusual circumstances, swiftly obliged my request, and together we delved into the footage, eagerly anticipating the moment when the tapping and the voice saying 17 House would be captured on screen. As we watched the recording, my heart pounded with anticipation, hoping that the video would provide some semblance of clarity. To our astonishment, the video depicted an accurate representation of the events that had transcribed. There I was, sitting at the desk, twiddling my thumbs, just as I remembered. The tapping noise reverberated through the speakers, and the inmate's voice echoed through the cell block, uttering those haunting words. However, as we scrutinized the footage closely, we were met with an eerie realization. No face appeared in the window. It was as if the inmate's presence has been reduced to a disembodied voice, defying the laws of logic and reason. Our search for answers only deepened the mystery, leaving us with more questions than before. How could a non-existent inmate engage in such a bizarre interaction with me? What supernatural force could have orchestrated this perplexing charade? Rumors and whispers of paranormal phenomena had occasionally circulated within the jail's confines, but nothing as concrete and bewildering as what I had experienced. I couldn't help but wonder if this was an isolated incident, or if other staff members or inmates had encountered similar inexplicable encounters within these walls. Word of my encounter spread among my colleagues, prompting hushed conversations during breaks and shared tales of their own unsettling experiences. Some had witnessed unexplained shadows flitting across the walls, while others swore they had heard whispers echoing through the corridors when no one was around. The jail, it seemed, harbored its own secrets, hidden within its austere walls. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the enigma surrounding Cell 17 remained unsolved. The incident faded into the annals of the jail's history, a haunting reminder that even with the confines of the seemingly mundane, the inexplicable and the supernatural could intertwine. To this day I reflect upon the bewildering night, pondering the nature of reality and the existence of forces beyond our comprehension. The memory of that ghostly encounter continues to haunt me, serving as a constant reminder that sometimes in the depths of the unknown, the explicable can reveal itself, defying our limited understanding of the world. It serves as a stark reminder that there are realms beyond our grasp, where the boundaries of logic and reason blur and the supernatural dances with the mundane. Over time, I became increasingly fascinated by the hidden mysteries of the jail. I delved into books and articles seeking accounts of otherworldly encounters within the correctional facilities. To my surprise, I stumbled upon a collection of stories shared by both inmates and staff members from various prisons across the world. These tales painted a tapestry of unexplained phenomenon, showcasing a parallel reality that coexisted within the walls of these institutions. In one account, an inmate claimed to have seen spectral figures wandering the corridors late at night, their ethereal presence casting an eerie glow. Another narrative spoke of inexplicable temperature drops, with cells turning icy cold, despite the absence of any logical explanation. Reading all these theories, I realized that my experience was not an isolated incident. Others had faced similar encounters with the inexplicable, grappling with their own versions of the unexplained phenomena. The jail, it seemed, held a veil between the tangible and the intangible, a threshold where the paranormal intersected with the mundane routines of prison life. Emboldened by these shared experiences, I embarked on a quest to uncover the secrets of the jail. I sought out seasoned officers who had patrolled its corridors for years, hoping they would shed light on the hidden whispers and inexplicable occurrences that permeated the facility. Their accounts, filled with a mixture of awe and trepidation, unveiled a hidden world teeming with unexplained events. One veteran officer recounted an incident where he had witnessed doors swinging open and closing by unseen hands, accompanied by a chilling breeze that seemed to carry whispers from beyond. Another guard described a palpable sense of unease and a feeling of being watched, particularly in certain cell blocks notorious for their turbulent history. The more I delved into these encounters, the clearer it became that the jail possessed a unique energy, an ethereal presence that defied conventional understanding. It was as if the very fabric of the building absorbed the emotions, memories, and energy of those who had passed through its gates, creating a complex tapestry of spiritual residue. In my pursuit for answers, I connected with paranormal investigators and researchers specializing in haunted locations. Together we organized investigations within the jail, armed with sophisticated equipment designed to capture evidence of the otherworldly. Throughout these explorations, we recorded unexplained footsteps echoing through empty corridors, disembodied voices whispering chilling messages, and even instances of poltergeist activity. The culmination of these efforts led to a shift in perception within the jail. What was once whispered in hushed tones among staff members now became an open conversation. Inmates began sharing their own encounters, providing additional layers of insight into the mysteries that lurked within the confines of their cells. These shared experiences fostered a sense of camaraderie among the incarcerated, the staff, and the researchers. Together, we embraced the inexplicable, seeking to understand the uncharted territories of the supernatural that intertwined with the everyday reality of the jail. In retrospect, my encounter in Cell 17 served as a catalyst, igniting a journey of exploration and understanding. It taught me to embrace the enigmatic nature of the universe, recognizing that even in the most mundane of places, the extraordinary can unfold. Story number 4. This might be dumb, but I'm unnaturally attached to a doll I've had for about 7 years. About 7 years ago, or perhaps even longer, forgive me, my memory and sense of time tend to be quite unreliable, an extraordinary event took place in my life. I was bestowed with a remarkable gift, a stuffed doll of Link, the iconic hero from the Legend of Zelda video game. Now, I must confess I've never been one to develop strong emotional attachments to inanimate objects like dolls or toys. Admittedly, there were a few cherished possessions to which I am somewhat attached, but nothing quite compares to the bond I formed with this particular doll. At the time, my family and I resided in a double-wide trailer situated on our very own property. Financially, we were relatively comfortable back then, a situation that unfortunately changed since. Nevertheless, I digress. The property upon which the humble abode stood held a haunting history. A former house had once occupied the land before succumbing to the devastation of fire, claiming the lives of several unfortunate family members. It was whispered among the locals that the property may be haunted, and as it turns out, both my mother and I had experienced inexplicable phenomenon that could only be ascribed to the paranormal. When I first received the Link doll, I cannot say that I harbored any profound attachment towards it. I was undeniably thrilled to possess a doll representing one of my beloved, video game franchise members, but beyond that initial excitement, my sentiments were rather lukewarm. However, as time elapsed, an extraordinary metamorphosis transpired within me, and my connection with the doll grew increasingly potent. On occasion, I wouldn't inadvertently leave it in my room while attending school, only to return and find that my diligent mother had tidied up the space. Strangely, she held an aversion towards the doll, recounting instances where she would be engrossed in cleaning only to momentarily step away, and upon her return, discover the doll had inexplicably shifted its position, despite her being the sole occupant of the room. Even my sister-in-law, during her occasional visits, attested to similar inexplicable occurrences. Gradually, the doll became an inseparable companion to me, accompanying me wherever I ventured. Unbeknownst to me, I would instinctively clutch it whenever leaving the house, and this ritual endured for an extended duration, during which the doll seemed to emanate an aura beyond inanimacy. Whenever it was near, an uncanny sensation of being observed enveloped me, although far from pleasant. It was as though a benevolent presence, hovering in its proximity, safeguarding and witnessing my every move. Approximately 4 years ago, our circumstances forced us to relocate to a diminutive one-bedroom apartment, a space compared to the size of the average kitchen within a modest home. It was within this cramped house that the doll inexplicably vanished from my possession, defying all logic in the process. Given the spatial constraints, I scoured every nook and cranny in search of my beloved companion, yet it eluded my desperate pursuit. Then, a mere 2 days ago, a miraculous event unfolded. My mother approached me, triumphantly presenting the long-lost doll that she had discovered beneath my bed. This revelation left me dumbfounded, as I frequently rummaged beneath my bed in search of items such as journals or even my cherished Pokemon cards. It may strike you as odd considering my age of 24, but I still derive immense pleasure from indulging in the nostalgia of Pokemon and the like. The sheer relief and unbridled joy that overwhelmed me upon being reunited with the doll were utterly disproportionate to the emotions I'd ever experienced toward any other possession in my life, be they expensive electronics or treasured childhood toys. There was something inherently special about this doll, something that transcended the realm of material value. Its reappearance into my life brought about an immense sense of solace and contentment that I'd never felt before. It was around a year ago when I finally secured my first stable job, an achievement that had proved elusive due to the challenges posed by my mental disabilities. The timing of the doll's return couldn't have been more fortuitous, as I promptly reintegrated it into my daily routine, carrying it with me wherever I went, including my workplace. Fortunately, I was blessed with the understanding and supportive coworkers and a compassionate boss who were well aware of the significance this doll held in my life. I had shared with them the tale of its disappearance and my ongoing search, and they had accompanied me on this emotional roller coaster in the process. Oddly enough, despite the passage of 2 years, each day brought with it a flicker of hope that the doll would serendipitously reappear, and my thoughts often drifted back to it. In truth, I possess a myriad of stuffed animals and toys from my childhood, some of which I hold dear and I've cherished since infancy. However, the attachment I feel towards this particular doll defies all rationality. Since its return, that familiar sensation of being watched has resurfaced, but it is no longer disconcerting. On the contrary, it is a comforting presence, a reassurance that I'm never truly alone, even in the mundane moments of daily life. As I embark on my daily commute, the doll nestled securely in my embrace, I can't help but reflect upon the inexplicable nature of our bond. Its soft fabric, the touch of its felt hat, and the embroidered Triforce symbol on its tunic evoke a profound sense of nostalgia and companionship. It serves as a constant reminder of the enduring magic that can be found within the simplest of objects. So, with this beloved doll by my side, I traverse the realms of both the mundane and the extraordinary, secure in the knowledge that I am not alone. Together we embark on one countless adventure, bridging the gap between reality and imagination, reminding me that sometimes the most extraordinary experiences can be found in the simplest of companions. Story number 5. Ask Reddit 1. This one is a bit more tame, and it happened outside of the res, but still way in the country. We were renting a house out in the BFE, and our nearest neighbor was a good quarter-mile down the road. My father is a city paramedic, so he's frequently out of the house. His commute to the major cities about an hour and a half, but it was cheaper to live out here, and I'd sometimes go 2 days without seeing him, and it was only him and I living in that house due to our parents' divorce. The property had a completely separate garage that was basically an unfinished apartment. It had a bathroom, a table, a fridge, a couch, a TV, a microwave, a toaster oven, air conditioning, etc. Our house only had one bathroom, and to put it politely, it would stink when anybody used it, because somehow the scent would diffuse through the entire house. It was pretty much... Okay, you spelled something wrong. It was pretty much tradition to use the garage restroom and save everybody their noses. Well, that day was a Sunday, and my father had let me know that he was on his way home. Nature called, and I went to the bathroom in the garage. The door was closed, but it was silent due to the fact that we lived in the country. There's not much noise to go around there. Anyways, I was using the restroom when I heard the front door to the garage open, not the huge wall door, just the person-sized one, and I heard cowboy boots walking across bare concrete. That is a very distinct sound, and my dad always changed into his boots on the way home. The boots walked up to my door, and I very clearly heard my dad's voice exactly as he would intonate the words and all, and he said, "Hey, you in there?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just using the bathroom. I'll be out in a second." He said, "Okay, just checking." Cowboy boots walk out, door closes, and I finish up and leave. No one was home, no tire tracks outside in the gravel, no footprints in the white chalk hallway, nothing. My dad was still driving home, in fact, and there was no radio on, no TV, and nothing but me and my thoughts. This occurred a second time, but it was much worse. Same situation, except this time my father had left to go to work. I was using the restroom and I heard the door slam open and hit the wall. Stopping up to the closed door, and I heard, "Hey, what are you doing in there?" Again, exactly as my father would have said it, I replied, "I'm just using the bathroom." I then heard nothing but something heavy flying and hitting a wall. I stayed in that bathroom for about an hour before I couldn't handle the heat. The bathroom was an addition with no AC, and the only way to get cool air was keeping the door open so the main room's AC could creep in. Until I finally creeped out and looked around. Front door was open, and there was a dent in the wall where the handle hit. There was a heavy pipe wrench that was on my father's top shelf sitting on the floor clear across the room. Another dent in the wall where it hit. I said a prayer and kept my eyes down and went back into the house. I have more, but those were my more tame ones. I'm frequently made fun of because of a lot of people assuming that I make these up for attention, but the fact of the matter is, I experienced something I can't explain and I need to share it. I don't know why this stuff happens predominantly to my native family. One person experienced this would be an anecdote, but every member of my family has stories like it, and we're all excessively logical, evidence-driven individuals, you could say. I may not be Christian, but I'm also not an atheist. I have enough evidence to conclude that there's things beyond my knowledge, and I'm unsure if I should pursue learning more about them. Ask Reddit 2, story number 6. This occurred at the same place with the disembodied garage voices. My father and I are accomplished hunters. We do the old school endurance hunting with a knife, so we're frequently running around forests and chasing down animals to stab in the heart and would carry back to eat. All this time in the woods made us very accustomed to the various sounds one would hear out there, and after a bit of time spent out there, you begin to be able to identify all of it, and it becomes more familiar and less scary. But that doesn't mean the woods are safe. Our property bordered the edge of a development on our patch of civilization, and the property line, which was unfenced, was a clear cut between the wooded and not. It immediately went into dense woods, and we had all manner of animals that would sometimes wander in or near our yard. These would be, by and large, pretty tame things. A doe here, a skunk there. Once we were attacked by a bobcat who just kit nearby, and we apparently spooked her enough into attacking. However, over time spent in this house, we began to hear the oddest noises that neither of us had ever heard, emanating from the deepest woods behind our house and behind us. It's hard to describe. It almost sounded like a Bigfoot, or noises a Bigfoot would make, like in the shows of National Geographic, but nowadays, a long, loud, almost human-like bellow that reaches across the trees, but isn't shrill like a mountain lion, bobcat, or fox. It certainly didn't have the woman screaming or child screaming properties that those calls carry. Instead, it sounded like a very long, loud yell from the belly of an angry man. We heard it often, and we would sometimes sit out at night and just wonder what was making the noise that neither one of us could place in any animal dictionary around. Over time, we noticed the noise would seem a bit closer. It had a louder, less echo-like quality, and we'd noticed that we were getting more animals coming into our yard at night, almost as if they couldn't bear to spend the night in the trees with whatever was making that noise. This, in and of itself, is odd. since we had hunting dogs that were very against any sort of animal visitors and made it known when they were out during the day and an animal was unlucky enough to be near them. Yet at night, our dogs began to not bark like they usually do. These dogs were specifically bay dogs, dogs trained to bark at prey, to close in on them, and somewhere so we could stab them in the heart. So, barking was literally what they were made to do, and they loved doing it. Still, we noticed that whenever that thing started making those keening calls over the trees at night, our dogs would all huddle into their houses and not make a peep. Unfortunately, the story doesn't have much of an ending. Gradually, the oddity moved further away, and eventually we stopped hearing it altogether. Summer lazily, sort of just went into fall. I wish we got some conclusion to it, though. I will say, my father and grandfather both told me to respect the forest, and I said I shouldn't wander about, or at least go near it at night. Since whatever was in there was clearly trying to be found. These are both men of few words and life-learned convictions, so I took it seriously and I heeded their advice. And when I'm given evidence that points towards something that logically I can't explain, I tend towards the most obvious solution. There was something out there. I don't know what it was despite my lengthy experiences out in the woods, and I didn't want to find out. That property actually had a lot of weird occurrences. Story number 7. Ask Reddit 3. This incident hit me hard, and I feel compelled to share my experience. At the time, I was residing in an old motel complex turned student dorm, where I worked overnight at the desk and I provided security. Admittedly, the place wasn't the most pleasant, but I found solace in having my own tiny apartment within its walls. Most nights I would happily immerse myself in the vast world of the internet, without a worry in the world. Paranoid thoughts and delusions were foreign to me. Yet one particular night stands out and vivid. As I mindlessly tapped away at the keyboard, engrossed in a video game or some online activity, an inexplicable and overwhelming thought suddenly consumed me. It was as if this notion had washed over me in an instant, crystal clear and definitive. There's a spirit in here. A girl, burdened with a profound sadness. This revelation completely stunned me since I'd never been experienced such a thought before. It was a fleeting uncertainty. Rather, it felt like a confident assessment that I couldn't disregard. Without any reason to doubt the message from my own end, I found myself speaking aloud to the unseen presence. Hey there, if you're feeling lonely or distressed, you can stay with me, but only if you promise not to frighten me. Let's be friends. You don't have to endure solitude. Strangely, after uttering those words, the overwhelming sensation subsided, but I resumed my computing endeavors without further incident. The entire episode left me perplexed and unsettled, prompting me to seek answers the following morning. I approached my boss, an older lady who had been associated with the establishment since its motel days, and shared my account, while inquiring about the deaths that might have occurred in my room. Her complexion turned pale, and she seemed visibly shaken by my question. She hesitated for a moment, then revealed a chilling truth. DeaconNuno, back in the 70s, by hanging herself from the walkway railing just outside the door to your room. Notably, I haven't divulged any details of my experience prior to her response. I had merely inquired about the room's history, her reaction nearly mirroring my own bewildered state. Since then, I've never encountered anything even remotely similar. While I'm now inclined to approach spirits and the supernatural with skepticism, seeking plausible explanations, I can't deny that this particular event was profoundly jarring. Story number 8. Scary Ouija board experience. On my 14th birthday, which was a few years ago since I'm now 17, I've had a memorable gathering with some close friends. We had an absolute blast devouring junk food and being glued to the television, binge-watching movies. However, after a good 3 or 4 films, we were eager to switch things up and embark on a new adventure. Luckily, I had purchased a Ouija board just a few months earlier, and I was itching to give it a try. It's worth noting that I was the sole bearer of knowledge about how it operated and its supposed mystical abilities. Gathered in a circle, each of us placed a finger on the planchette, forming a group of around 6 people. It took about 5 or 10 minutes to explain the mechanics of the Ouija board and what they could come to expect. I patiently fielded numerous inquiries from my friends, clarifying any confusion and doubts and ensuring that we were adequately prepared for the session. Our first question to the spirits was a simple one. Is anyone here with us? Unfortunately, the initial moments yielded no response, leaving us growing increasingly impatient. Determined, we posed the question once more. Surprisingly, after approximately 2 minutes, we noticed the planchette slowly gliding toward the yes marker. At that point, everyone couldn't help but mock the situation, convinced that one of us was manipulating the board, assuming it was all a prank due to the lack of supernatural occurrences. Seeking further interaction, we decided to inquire, "What's your name?" Expecting a fabricated and humorous response since someone would have had to invent a name on the spot, we were unprepared for the answer that sent shivers down our spine. Raul, R-A-U-L. Even now, recalling the name sends chills. Intrigued, we delved deeper, asking the age of the spiritual entity. To our astonishment, the Ouija board spelled out 25. We were captivated by this peculiar interaction and decided to dig further. Asking about Raul's cause of death, with suspense building, the planchette formed the words, "car crash." The atmosphere grew tense and a sense of unease crept over us, prompting a collective decision to halt the session. It was as if the situation had become uncomfortably real, surpassing the boundaries of a mere parlor game. Strangely, even without posing any additional questions, the planchette began moving on its own accord. We stood there frozen, anxiously awaiting the message to spell out, and it happened. Jackie. Feeling sufficiently spooked, we unanimously agreed that it was time to cease our ghostly encounters. We bid farewell to the lingering spirit and promptly packed the Ouija board away, ensuring that it wouldn't disturb us any longer. Later that night, approximately an hour after my friends had departed, I found myself alone. A message appeared on my phone from one of my friends. Curiosity piqued, I opened the message, revealing a link to an online article. Below the link, she had written the foreboding words, "You're not going to believe this." Intrigued and somewhat apprehensive, I clicked on the provided link and began reading the article. To my astonishment and terror, the piece detailed the tragic account of a male car crash victim named Raul. Regrettably, I couldn't recall his last name, and my attempts to retrieve the article by scouring past conversations with my friend proved fruitless, as I had since changed my phone number. But what chilled me to the core was a crucial revelation further in the article. It mentioned that the individual driving the car at the time of the fatal accident was none other than Raul's mother, Jackie. The synchronicity between the name revealed through the Ouija board and the real-life tragedy was uncanny and sent shivers down my spine. The eerie connection between the supernatural encounter and the actual events were just too real. Unable to shake off the unsettling experience, I continued to discuss it with my friends in the days that followed. We dissected every detail, trying to make sense of what occurred. Deep down, we couldn't help but entertain the possibility that one of us had manipulated the planchette, dismissing the idea of a genuine supernatural presence. However, the correlation between Raul's name and his age and the circumstances of his mother's demise was too improbable to be dismissed as mere coincidence. As time passed, the memory of that chilling night remained etched in our minds. We shared our thoughts and theories, grappling with the inexplicable nature of the Ouija board session. Some of us delved into research trying to uncover any historical information about the tragic accident or any ties to paranormal phenomena. Others sought solace in skepticism, choosing to believe that our collective imagination and subconscious desires had fueled the responses on the board. Despite our attempts to rationalize the events, a lingering sense of mystery and intrigue prevailed. It became a story that would recount on late nights or around campfires. forever pondering the possibility of a genuine encounter with the spirit realm. The uncertainty and lingering doubts only fueled our fascination with the supernatural, pushing us to explore other avenues of the occult and the paranormal. Years later, as I reflected upon the fateful birthday gathering, the impact of that Ouija board session remains profound. It served as a catalyst for my interest in the unknown and the mysteries of the universe. Though skeptical at times, I can't help but wonder if there are forces beyond our comprehension that brushed against us that night. The experience taught me to approach life with a sense of open-mindedness and curiosity, understanding that sometimes the inexplicable occurrences defy logical explanations. To this day, when the topic arises during conversations with my friends, we revisit that night, each sharing our own interpretation and memory. Though we may never know the absolute truth, the experience remains a haunting reminder of the mysteries that surround us, forever fueling our sense of wonder and sparking the flame of curiosity within each of us. Story number 9. Sat by a spirit in a sweat lodge. During a certain period of time, I developed a regular habit of attending Inipi ceremonies, also known as Lakota sweat lodge rituals. Nearly every week it was a profound experience that I cherished deeply. One particular summer, as I sat and engaged in prayer within the sweat lodge, something extraordinary occurred. If you've ever had the opportunity to participate in such a ceremony, you would understand that the environment inside the lodge is enveloped in pitch-black darkness, the only faint glow emitted by hot stones providing any semblance of illumination. As the Inipi ceremony neared its conclusion, and the time for me to exit the lodge approached, I found myself relishing in sensations of cool air permeating through the structure and the gentle rays of the evening sun that filtered in. To my left, the person farthest from me in the circle completed their ritual and made their way out. It wasn't uncommon for individuals to engage in final prayers before departing, so it wasn't particularly, strange, and I wasn't bothered by the person to my left taking a bit longer to rise and leave. Conversely, the person to my right seemed eager to exit the sweat lodge and wasted no time in conveying this sentiment to me. With a tap on my shoulder, the person to my right indicated that it was my turn to crawl out of the lodge. So in that moment, I swiftly turned, my gaze to the left, and then I expected to see the individual who had just exited. However, to my surprise, there was no one there. This exchange transpired within a mere 3 seconds, and as we were positioned just slightly off-center from the door, it was inconceivable for anyone to crawl out that swiftly. I distinctly sensed the presence of someone or something beside me, while I had been basking in the gentle light and coolness of the air. An obstruction had ellipsed the illumination from my left. It was a substantial figure casting a shadow that partially obscured the incoming light within my field of vision and peripheral awareness. Given that most attendees of the Inipi were burly and robust men, it wouldn't have been unusual for a large individual to inadvertently block part of the light. After obediently crawling out of the sweat lodge, the ensuing moments were uneventful. We indulged in a hearty meal of deer meat chili, without any negative incidents transpiring. In my contemplation of the experiences, I couldn't fathom the presence of any malevolent spirits lingering within the sacred confines of the sweat lodge. Seeking insight, I approached an elder and recounted the occurrence, inquiring about its significance. The elder's response was both enlightening and nonchalant, as if to say, "Of course, we invite the spirits to join us in prayer. Isn't that obvious?" Story number 10. The family farm animals are reacting to something, and I don't know what it is. So for context, I'm from the rural parts of Scandinavia. I'm a hunter. I'm 20 years old, and I currently live with my family due to becoming very ill. And while since moving in, I've noticed the farm animals' behavior has changed alongside odd happenings. Here we're talking about horses, cats, and dogs, as well as some now dead chickens. So I'll start out by explaining the horse's behavior. So these are 2 castrated Mustangs and a mare, all fair-tempered animals who are very friendly. so recently they've been getting absolutely frightened by something. We've seen them staring into the woods, snorting before blasting a gallop at high speeds trying to flee, and sometimes they've fled their pasture. Inside their stables, they've also been suddenly snorting and standing in the corners of their enclosures. The cats have all been seemingly awfully anxious. We have 2 that are barn cats. One is a mix inside and outside cat, and the last one is an inside cat. The 2 outside cats are usually quite fond of people and are usually very comfortable in their environment, but ever since December of last year, they've stayed in their room and saddle room almost constantly. When they don't leave, they seem to be on edge, and I've seen them posture up and hiss from what I can see is nothing. Nothing but a creepy feeling, which may just be from listening to the cat. But now the mixed cat usually doesn't go off as much, but will at times seem fearful and will stick to us, which is quite odd since it sent quite a, thought people were friendly. And the trouble for it, and the inside cat, has started to refuse to be downstairs at night, and sometimes they've hissed at something. The dog's a lovely golden retriever who's the biggest, kindest goofball, who usually just gets on people's nerves with his stealing and his strong belief in his fits, and it usually sits on people. So he's not at all an ill-tempered dog or badly socialized. With him, it started with him sometimes staring for long amounts of time at the scullery where he usually sleeps. The scullery has a door into the stable or barn, and it would slowly progress to him barking and growling at the scullery. This continued along with him starting to do it at the living room and dining room. He started growling at all these areas as well. All this kept to being one day, a one-time thing, up until January, and then he would sometimes do it around 2 or 5 in the morning with his barking and growling becoming more intense. He would also start the same front door, and he started the same front door that had a huge glass panel in it, so the dog could see through it. The chickens didn't really have any problem. Their behavior didn't really change much except for them foraging further away from the barn and house. Suddenly in December, we woke up all of them, and they were gone. We woke up to all of them gone from the chicken coop where they had always returned. Now I do think that this may be a predator-based thing, but I still find it odd that we didn't find anything suggesting a predator took them. No feathers, no blood, no sign of entry. I've also had experiences with something I can't explain happening alongside the rest of my family. I'll gladly share our experiences, but not in this post, since this is focusing on the animal's behavior. So, I will ask you, the person reading this, what are your thoughts on what's happening? And what could it be since I can't explain it? Update. We are currently having below 0, and on the edge of being below 0 weather, and the house has been infested with flies. I've seen a lot of people suggest predators, which is definitely a possibility, but we've not had any large predator kills since 2017, and I've not seen nor documented any since 2018. Foxes have not been spotted since 2019, but we did find a dead badger last summer, but nowhere near our property, but within 3 or 4 kilometers of it. The human aspect is definitely a possibility as well, since we've dealt with some oddballs through time, but the last time we did was back in 2014. Story number 11. Sounds of stuff falling, but nothing fell. Today, as I sat comfortably in the cozy confines of my living room, engrossed in the captivating world of television, my tranquil existence was abruptly shattered by a cacophonous crash that reverberated through the air. It resembled the sound of a potted plant meeting an untimely demise, its fragile structure shattering against the unyielding floor. A perplexing occurrence indeed, for I am devoid of any furry companions within the confines of my humble abode. Compelled by curiosity, I swiftly arose from my seat and embarked upon a quest to unravel the enigma that had disrupted my momentary repose. My eager eyes turned toward the kitchen, the sole sanctuary of the 3 cherished potted plants that grace the interior of my dwelling. However, to my utmost bewilderment, none of these verdant specimens had succumbed to the clutches of gravity. They stood proudly, unperturbed and undisturbed, as if mocking my feeble attempts to comprehend the source of the commotion. Unfazed but undeniably perturbed, I reluctantly dismissed the incident as mere figments of my imagination. opting to return to the comforts of my suspended disbelief within the realm of television. Alas, my respite was fleeting, for the eerie symphony of cascading objects once again pierced the tranquility of my home. This time, the sonorous tones resonated with a weightier quality, as if a myriad of substantial entities descended upon the earth with an unseen force. Intrigued and filled with a resolute determination, I embarked upon a meticulous exploration of my domicile, traversing its every nook and cranny in search of elusive answers. Alas, my pursuit proved fruitless, as no fallen objects or misplaced possessions met my vigilant gaze. The impeccable order of my surroundings mocked my disconcerted state of mind, amplifying the enigmatic nature of the situation. Just as I resigned myself to the inexplicable nature of these peculiar events, my attention was ensnared by an astonishing spectacle. In an act of defying the laws of physics, my own toothbrush, suspended meticulously upon its designated holder, flung itself toward the cold, unyielding floor. I stood transfixed, astounded by the sight that unfolded before my disbelieving eyes. The holder remained steadfast, unaffected by the inexplicable descent of the innocent toothbrush. It was as though an invisible hand had, with an impish sense of mischief, had purposely liberated the toothbrush from its appointed abode. Summoning every ounce of composure within me, I gingerly retrieved the wayward toothbrush from its undignified resting place, diligently cleansing it from any signs of its unexpected journey. Once it was restored to its rightful position, I dared to exhale a sigh of relief, hoping to pacify the unrest that had beset my wary mind. Yet, fate had other plans, for as I emerged from the confines of my bathroom, prepared to traverse the family hallway, a disconcerting sound reverberated through the air. It was the unmistakable timbre of a man's laughter, echoing from the recesses behind me. My heart skipped a beat, for the sole male inhabitant of this dwelling, my stepfather, was diligently toiling away at his occupation far removed from the sanctuary of our shared domicile. The haunting laughter, haunting in its familiarity yet disorienting in its ethereal manifestation, had taunted my senses on previous occasions. The perplexity of the situation became even more pronounced, amplifying the unease that had gradually permeated the very fabric of my being. I was alone, enveloped in solitude, with no semblance of another presence in this sacred space. There were no conceivable hiding places, no crevices or secret chambers that could conceal the phantom source of their haunting laughter. My mind raced with a myriad of possibilities, each more far-fetched than the last, as I struggled to reconcile the inexplicable within the realm of rationality. A chilling sensation crept up my spine, its icy tendrils spreading throughout my body as I contemplated the implications of this unsettling encounter. Was I being visited by a spectral presence, an ethereal entity existing beyond the boundaries of our mortal realm? Or was there an elaborate ruse at play, carefully orchestrated to instill a sense of disquiet within the confines of my sanctuary? Reluctant to succumb to fear's paralyzing grasp, I summoned the remnants of my courage and embarked on a thorough investigation of every inch of my dwelling. I scoured the deepest recesses of my closet, probed beneath furniture, and peered into the darkest corners, desperately seeking any signs of an intruder or hidden interloper. Yet my meticulous search yielded no answers, no tangible evidence to support my growing suspicions. The walls remained steadfast, the windows sealed shut, and the doors firmly locked. It was as if my dwelling had become an impenetrable fortress, impervious to both the physical and the ethereal. As daylight waned, the shadows lengthened. I found myself immersed in a disquieting solitude. Every creak, every whisper of the wind sent shivers down my spine, so I grappled with the profound uncertainty that had seized hold of my senses. The inexplicable events had shaken the very foundation of my reality, leaving me adrift in a sea of unanswered questions. Nightfall descended, casting its cloak of darkness upon the world, further exacerbating my growing unease. Each passing minute felt like an eternity as I sat vigilantly in my living room, alert to the slightest disturbance. The ambiance of the house seemed to shift, as if it had become a sentient being, taunting me with its enigmatic presence. Then, if drawn by an invisible force, my gaze fixated upon a framed photograph on the mantelpiece. It depicted a happy family, capturing a moment of pure bliss. The figures smiled warmly, their eyes brimming with joy and love. Among them, my stepfather stood tall, his infectious laughter frozen in time. It was his laughter that I had heard echoing through the halls of my dwelling. A surge of realization washed over me like a wave crashing upon the shore. The laughter was not that of an otherworldly apparition, but rather a lingering echo of the love and happiness that once permeated these walls. The memories imprinted within these cherished spaces had become imprinted upon the very essence of the house itself, a poignant reminder of a bygone era. And so, I settled back into my embrace of my living room, the laughter of generations past mingled harmoniously with the faint hum of the television, creating a symphony of both the tangible and the intangible. In that moment, I found solace in the inexplicable, and a renewed appreciation for the immeasurable depth and complexity of the human experience. Story number 13, The Missionary Chronicles, Part 2. During my LDS mission in Picture Rocks, Arizona, I had an intriguing companion with whom I served for several weeks. He shared a fascinating rule that he and other missionaries followed in the area. If we didn't have an appointment, we would head back home when it got dark. This rule stemmed not only from the paranormal issues, but also from concerns about drug running and criminal activities in the vicinity. Truly, the tales surrounding these topics could fill an entire book. One mid-November evening in 2014, we found ourselves driven back from an appointment that had run late, pushing our boundaries as LDS missionaries who were bound by strict and extensive rules. It was already around 10 p.m., and the overcast sky added a chilling atmosphere to our journey through the maze of dirt roads that comprised Picture Rocks. The road was uneven, making navigation even more challenging. As we traversed a long, desolate stretch of dirt road with no houses in sight, a figure suddenly emerged in our headlights. This man, seemingly walking aimlessly with his head down, clad in a t-shirt and shorts despite the freezing cold. What struck us as peculiar was his lack of any light source and his complete obliviousness to our presence. As the driver, I slowed down to maneuver around him, considering the narrowness of the road. As he drew closer, his face appeared translucent and his eyes were entirely white. My companion and I couldn't tear our eyes away from this inexplicable sight as we rolled past him. Incredibly, he was so near that I could have easily reached out and touched him by rolling the window. However, as we drove past, the figure began to fade away, ultimately vanishing into thin air. Unable to contain my astonishment, I exclaimed to my companion that the man had inexplicably disappeared and promptly halted the car. I scanned the mirrors aided by the red glow of the brake lights in an attempt to catch a glimpse of the mysterious individual, but he had completely vanished. Determined to investigate further, I turned the car around, partially driving off the road to do so. The illuminated areas that the car's bright headlights were showing showed nothing. So he was nowhere to be found. Following this perplexing event and other encounters with the poltergeist in our abode, I reached out to fellow missionaries, inquiring if they believed Picture Rocks was haunted. To my astonishment, they all confirmed that this place was undeniably haunted and eagerly shared their own spine-chilling stories over the phone. The town was rife with strange happenings, unique encounters with the poltergeist in our manufactured home, and eerie warnings about skinwalkers. Prior to this, I've never even heard of skinwalkers, so I naturally turned to my companion for more information. Yet, he hesitated for a moment before responding, indicating that he didn't wish to discuss the matter, at least not while we were inside the manufactured home. Among the recurring tales shared by fellow missionaries, including my companion, were accounts of phantom vehicles. I couldn't quite grasp the concept until I experienced them firsthand.